Okay, so joining me now is Nick Richards from the Charlotte Hornets. Nick, you just got done with the purple and teal scrimmage. How'd it go?
It was good, man. Everybody's getting after everybody practice, working on what we need to work on. I think everybody came in the camp really focused this year. It should be a good year for us.
Good. And last time I spoke to you was in Vegas last year, and at that point you told me you just started taking golf lessons. So I want to know now. At the time you told me that your handicap was probably 100. How are the golf lessons going?
Right down to a 50 now.
Hey, that's all right.
Yeah, it's all right for me. Not for someone that's really good.
Um, I know the Hornets added Patrick Ewing over the offseason as a coaching advisor, and I know you picked up basketball maybe later than most, but as a fellow Jamaican, is that someone that you kind of were aware of growing up or that you looked up to at all?
Yeah, for sure. Patrick Ewing, he was always a big name on the island. Everybody knows him for being one of the greatest basketball players of all time in the U.S., but also in Jamaica. He's also just by his name and stories of him, is helping the sport grow in the country as well. So I feel like it's also my responsibility to help with that when it comes to Jamaican basketball.
So what's it been like? Have you had much chance to work with Pat yet? Obviously, he's not been with the team that long, but have you had a chance to work with him much yet?
Work on the court, no, but before every practice, during the practice, and even after the practices, he's always talking and giving me advice and telling me what he sees on the court and sees what I could do to make the team better and to make myself better. But I think he's been very helpful for me and Mark and I, and I feel like he's going to be like a key part for us for us the whole entire season.
And what are some of those things that you like? What are some of the themes that you're hearing from him that he's saying? Are there any kind of consistent things that he's saying to you and Mark?
For me, I don't know what he's saying to Mark, but for me, it's just to be more aggressive on the offense end. Don't shy away from the ball every time you roll. Look for it every time you're the first person down on the floor. Steal right under the rim and just look for the ball. Just try to be more aggressive.
Yeah. And I looked at this. I don't know if you know this. Of players who played more than 1,000 minutes last year, you were ranked the fourth most in the entire NBA while being fouled while shooting. Did you know that?
Nah, I didn't know that at all. That's a good stat. It's a cliff.
That's an elite skill, right? You're the fourth best in terms of rate, like being fouled. What makes you so good at drawing contact?
I feel like one part of it is I'm always going for the offensive rebound, and once I grab it, a lot of teams they just found me in the process of trying to go back up. But mostly, most of my shots are all coming from layups, and I like most. And when you get a lot of times when you go to the rim, you get contested on a layup. Sometimes they're going to foul you.
And do you ever get annoyed by how often you're fouled? I mean, you're a 75% free throw shooter. It's not like, you're someone shooting 45, 50% and they're just fouling you to stop. Do you ever look around being like, why do you guys keep fouling me at all?
No, I never do. Shooting free throws is free throws,
Yeah.
Points for me.
And who gives out the hardest fouls you've played against? Any hard ones from last year you remember at all?
Nah, none that have really stuck out. I think there's no teams that we played. There's no dirty basketball players. I think everybody's pretty clean. Everybody's pretty fair.
Yeah,
is what they're doing.
Yeah. Obviously, last season was probably your best as a pro. I was curious, to what extent is there much competition between you and Mark? Fighting for minutes, fighting for a spot. How's that been this year? Obviously, you both had opportunities last year. Would you describe it as a healthy competition?
For sure, it's a healthy competition. I don't think we are looking at it as we're gonna battle each other out for more minutes. I think we're just looking at it more as we're gonna help each other get better individually, so that we can help the team during the season. And by us, going hard on each other every single day in practice, it's helping us individually as well, even though we're not looking at that from that perspective.
Okay. And obviously, the first week of training came down. I know it's still early, but have you noticed yet any defensive scheme differences that might impact what style you play this year or how you play on the defensive end? Or do you think it's pretty similar to what you did in the second half of last season?
pretty similar to what we did in the second half of last season. You know, not just me and Mark, but, you know, PJ, Miles, and JT, you know, they're all good, really good defenders, you know, especially really good shot blockers as well. So not just the centers, but, you know, a lot of guys on our team have really good defensive skills.
Yeah. And on media day, I saw you were asked about your offensive screen fouls, and you kind of like smiled and looked away. And I was curious from that reaction. Like it struck me like it's something that you've heard every day for like the off season or something like that. Was that the reason why? Or was there another reason you kind of reacted that way?
Yeah, I already smiled because I wasn't expecting him to ask that.
Okay.
I haven't heard about it all summer, and then I thought that, you know, out of all the things that I showed last season, all the improvements that I showed, that, you know, I thought that he'll ask something more along that lines and not something like that negative, you know.
I get that. And you did talk on media day about you were wanting to be like more consistent. I think that's what you said was your goal this year, because you said that was that middle patch in the season where you felt you couldn't have played. For you, what is it that you think? What means consistency for you? How can you do that? Because it's obviously sometimes like 82 games, it's a lot. What do you think you need to do to be able to be consistent?
You know, from a skill standpoint or being in shape standpoint, I wouldn't say it's none of those. I'd say it's more of, you know, there's some times where there's some games you don't want to play. And just, you know, you just have to get through that mental fatigue part of it, you know, kicks in, and, you know, you just gotta find a way to keep fighting through it. You gotta find a reason to, you know, want to go out there and play every single night. And so I think that's more the lines of being consistent for me.
And obviously for yourself, you were 22 when you came in the league, right? And it took you a couple of years to find your way. And last year you emerged probably as one of the best backup centers and could probably start on a lot of teams. When you look at, you know, I think we have 3 rookies who are freshmen coming this year. How is that like learning adjustment, even as a 22-year-old for you, but for those guys who are 18, 19, do you look at that and think it must be even harder when they're that young?
Nah, I wouldn't say that they're hard. We have 2 good rookies that are, you know, they're willing to learn. They take really good advice from all the vets, and myself included. You know, they're not really hard to talk to. They're like a sponge. They want knowledge for everything. They want to figure out how to make the best of their chance in the NBA. And I think that they're both going to be really, really successful this season, and not just their entire career, but this season in particular. They're going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah. And then just final question from me. You know, after the last season, mentioned it's the best season of your career. Do you feel you have a different level of confidence going into this year, kind of knowing that you have a role in the team? Or are you kind of, did you always have that kind of like self-confidence? As for you, nothing changed?
I've always had the self-confidence in myself, but, you know, I think that the more and more games I played last season, the more the game slowed down for me. I felt like I could predict what's coming before it even happens, and I think that that's one thing that a lot of vets know. A lot of vets in the league that they know it's about to happen before it even happens, and I think that's something that's slowly coming to me.
Yeah. Well, Nick, thanks a lot for your time. Best of luck with preseason, rest of training camp, and we'll wish you best of luck for the rest of the season. Look forward to watching you.
Thank you.
All right, see you, man.
Yep.